Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast. Hope your Monday morning's off to a great start. Still early, so hope you have a good day ahead of you and a good week ahead of you. We're glad that you joined us, and to get your week started here on the Auburn Blitz podcast, as always, me and Faith here, and always glad to have Jason Caldwell with us to start our Mondays. Jason, good morning, buddy.
Morning. How are y'all?
Great. Faith, rebooting your computer.
Wow. Yeah.
Is that a sign of the way the week's going to go?
Yeah, I think that's a huge Monday thing.
There you go. Go ahead and get a reboot now and get it out of the way. So, again, glad everybody's joined us. We'll talk about some of our great partners here on the program as we move along. But business at hand, and, of course, we love your comments, and we'll take those as we move along. Auburn falls to Florida 90-81, and we all kind of were a little concerned. Jason, I remember a few weeks ago on the show, we were talking about this Florida team and it being a matchup problem for Auburn, and probably all the way down the line, maybe the worst matchup of anybody we'll play all year. And I heard somebody say this yesterday. Auburn didn't play terrible. They just didn't play good enough to beat the number 16 when they're playing at their best. And I thought that was a good summation. I thought the fight was great. Love to see them fight back when they got down and show that, put some pressure back on Florida. But Florida they were good. And, sometimes you got to tip your hat.
Yeah, no, they were, and I said it, I think I said it last week, a lot, just the 94 feet that is a basketball court. That's the toughest matchup Auburn's going to have this entire season. There's nobody with the length that Florida has. They're athletic, and plus they know what you're doing. So you're not going to trick anyone. That's why I thought that Todd Pettiford was probably the key for this team, because he's the one guy they have that can create shots, and he did some of that stuff on Saturday. But look, Florida did a good job, and that's a good basketball team. But they're long, and when Walter Clayton makes shots, they're really hard to beat. The games they've lost, they just hadn't shot the ball very well. And that's the situation with most teams. On the flip side, they impacted Auburn shooting the basketball. It looked very similar to what it did last year in Gainesville. The same thing. I mean, like they impacted Auburn shooting the basketball. Auburn was 13 of 28 on layups.
Right.
That happens when you have a big, long basketball team. And, so I still think you see the impact of Janai Broome. He's not a guy that ever played above the rim, but you take away some of his explosiveness, and all of a sudden he's not getting much lift at all, and it was hard for him to finish. And so, it was a case of you didn't play your best. Florida played pretty good, made some shots, and it's a difficult matchup. Like any other sport, basketball's a matchup game. That's a difficult matchup for this Auburn team. Even though they're longer, they're still not as long as Florida is.
I know we looked at, offensively, when you score 81 points with Auburn, usually that's good enough. But really the defensive side is what got Auburn in this game. But you're right, Jason. I mean, I think the thing that you look at was how well Florida shot the basketball. They shot it almost 50% from the field, and they made 13 threes. We only made 7. And, they shot a boatload of threes. They shot 33, but they made 11. And to me, the magic number, and Faith can back me up on this, I always say, if you can get to that 10 3-point mark, 10 made 3 mark, especially for Auburn, man, you feel really good about yourself. And, if Auburn makes 3 more threes, look at what the score is right there. I mean, you're dead even. So it came down to who shot the ball, I think, obviously the best. And you got to tip your hat to Todd Golden. They played like a team that knew this game, and we said this last week, they played like a team that knew if they dropped this one, they pretty much put themselves maybe out of contention for a chance to win an SEC regular season. If they come in there and win, not only were they playing for themselves, they were playing for the other 3 or 4 teams up there at the top to give them still a shot at this regular season. Because if Auburn moves to 10-0, they pretty much, again, I know this stretch coming up, the next couple going to be tough, but you start to distance yourself from everybody but Alabama at that point.
Yeah, right? You're right. I think it's, as Bruce Pearl said, look, it's a 4-game difference if for Florida if you lose that game. And so The other part of it is we talked about this for the last couple of weeks. It's really hard when you have the bullseye on your chest. And so for Auburn, you've had to withstand great effort. You're not getting an off night. You get one of those in this league anyway, but it's much different when you're the number one team in the country. And all of a sudden you go and just look at what's happened the last few times. I mean, LSU played Auburn pretty well, did a pretty good job. And you look up and they get blown out by 30 on their home court the next game. You start looking at it, and teams have struggled after playing Auburn because you expend so much energy because you're like, I want to beat that team. And so that's what you've got. That's what you have to deal with. And so all of a sudden you have to prepare for everybody's best shot. And guess what? You're going to get another one tomorrow night. And
no
it's
doubt.
Easy. Vandy's only lost one game at home this season. They're 12-1 at home. It's not going to be easy. That is a difficult place to play. And so I've been trying to prepare folks going, look, you're not going to go undefeated, and you're going to have more than one loss. This team's going to lose another basketball game. There may be a couple more coming, but it's not because this team isn't any good. It's because this league's pretty good, and it's because of matchups. And again, you don't play well, shots don't fall. I mean, look, you're talking about Auburn's three-point shooting and your free throws.
Free throws.
You miss 9 free throws, you lose by 9. And so you look at it, you go, make a few more of those, and all of a sudden a 5-point game feels much different than a 10-point game does. It's a different kind of pressure. And Auburn was never able to get over the hump Saturday. They got it to 9 a couple times, and they just couldn't put that ultimate pressure on Florida.
Faith, you remember last year Auburn blew out South Carolina in a midweek game and then came back and hosted Kentucky and lost that game, and they regrouped after that. It was kind of a refocus after that and kind of rejuvenation. I kind of think maybe you and I've talked about this, a pressure valve release, not to say that you want to lose a game, but you lose at home. Everybody has been kind of looking at next Saturday. And like Jason said, you got a tough one tomorrow night. This is not football. This is not lose a game and the season's over. I mean, you're going to lose 2 or 3 games along the way, even if you have a really good basketball team. It'll be interesting to see how this team kind of files this one away and moves forward this week, because you do have Vanderbilt in a quick turnaround. You and I've talked about that. These quick turnaround games can kind of wear on you. And then you've got your arch rival on Saturday. And we'll talk about the rankings here in a minute, but you just got a lot of things going on. You got to get refocused for tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely taking, I feel like, the pressure off a little bit. But also kind of just, it gives, I feel like, the team an opportunity to kind of regroup and kind of sit back and look where they struggled and why, versus, kind of just not being up on their high horse, but kind of just, we keep winning, we're doing everything right, taking a look at the bigger picture for what did we fall short at and what have we done wrong.
Jason, Denver Jones, really the game before had a tremendous game. And then you come back and I heard Coach Pearl say, I'm not worried about Denver, not worried about him at all. And, he had a tough task defensively. And I've said that all year. He expends a lot of energy on the team's best player a lot of times, and that affects you offensively. He only shot the ball 4 times, but sometimes, again, you just credit Walter Clayton Jr. did what he needed to do. And hey, I want to go back and say this: Florida got in a hole. I mean, Auburn got off to a quick start at home, had all the energy. They withstood that punch, and they came back. And to me, that really cemented what we've all been talking about with Florida. They're as good a shot of a Final Four team as anybody we've got in this league.
Yeah, no, and again, it's about matchups. I just that's what sometimes it comes down to. And Florida is really long. I mean, you bring like a guy like Thomas off the bench, and you have these guys that, I mean, Walter Clayton's 6'3". I mean, very similar kind of guy. But when you talking about the guys that you have in Condon and those other guys, and it's just a constant wave of those long guys, then it becomes an impact thing. And so I thought it does. And Denver does expend a ton of energy. But I thought as much as anything, I thought sometimes it's just not a good matchup.
Right.
And Florida's just not a great matchup for Auburn. Now, hey, when you make shots and they don't, you look at the SEC tournament last year, then it'll be different. But you start going, hey, they make a few shots, and all of a sudden it's a very difficult matchup. And so, and you're talking about it's basketball. You're going to lose basketball games. It just the way it is. How you handle it, how you come back, and how you finish. Now that'll ultimately tell the tale for this team, and I would expect them to come back and handle it just fine.
All right, Jason, I'm going to shift gears real quick. We're going to talk about what we think about the rankings that will come out today. But Auburn had some pretty big visitors in Saturday, some guys visiting for basketball. We know this team's going to be revamped next year, just the sheer number of seniors and the way turnover is. And when you look at the possibility of who's coming back off this team, you don't have many options. to hide, possibly Denver and CBM and Ja'Kai if he decides to stay. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. But that's really about it. Everybody else is gone. You had one of the bigger names in the country in Caleb Holton. We've seen him play at Buckhorn and win a couple state championships. Now he's over in Georgia. Just kind of update everybody on where this I know it's a little early to be talking about basketball recruiting, but you got to start looking. And I know this basketball staff has a plan, and I know they're in on a lot of really good guys. And with the portal and all that, it's going to be a mass change, and I feel confident they're going to get a rebuilt roster. But had some pretty good visitors come in.
Yeah, you're talking about Caleb Holt and Jalen Wingfield are a couple of 2026 guys, so they're not really going to impact you as much next year.
Next year, right.
And so those guys are in. Abdul Bashir was a junior college guy. Auburn played his brother earlier, who's one of the top scorers in the country, and Abdul was one of the top scorers.
He's at Monmouth, isn't he?
Yeah, his brother's at Monmouth, and he's out at in Wyoming at a junior college. Abdul Bashir is. It looks a lot like Chad Baker-Mazara in terms of his build. He's left-handed, long, skinny, two guard, small forward, but he can score. And so, that's a guy that was in as well. And so, you look at it is a roster that's going to have to be rebuilt when you start talking about, this Auburn basketball team and what you got. The first thing is you start talking about, are you able to get Chad Baker-Mazara and Denver Jones back? That's one of the things. Obviously you got to keep the Hod Pettiford. Ja'Kai Howard, we'll see what happens with him. If he's still here, that's a question for everybody. It doesn't, not just him. And so you start looking at, no matter what, we knew going into this thing that if you have 7, 8, 9 spots, you're not going to sign 7, 8, 9 high school guys. So I think very similar for me, when you start talking about offensive tackles on football, are you going to plug and play an offensive tackle from high school? Are you going to need to go get a guy that's an experienced, older, veteran, mature guy? The same thing for me goes when you're talking about big men in college basketball. It's really difficult for a freshman big man to be physical enough to play at this level and to be able to play. You look at Auburn, you go, the succession that you've had of transfer bigs, and now you got the ability to go sell and go, hey, you know what? You want to come be the third straight All-American transfer big man at Auburn? Here's the door. Because that would Walker Kessler, Janai Broome. You've had 2 straight All-Americans that have been transfer bigs. You're going to be able to sell that if you're Auburn, and you're probably going to have to go get 3 of those guys: a true center, a true power forward, and then a guy that can play both. Even if you get Chaney Johnson back, you're probably going to have that in terms of this, because you've added a couple of high school guys. You have Sebastian William Adams, who's a power forward. But, again, freshman Caden Magwood, Simon Walker from Huntsville. And I would guess that now you start to talk about probably 4 transfers in this class for Auburn basketball as well.
Yeah. Guys, some comments coming in. Hugh said Broome's injury probably cost us 10 points. Golden knows the foundation of what Bruce likes to do offensive. These two teams know each other really well. The coaches know each other really well. Todd Golden, they're very close. I mean, they are like family. I know they said that till you almost wanted to vomit on the broadcast. I mean, every 5 seconds they wanted to remind everybody that Todd Golden was like a second son to Bruce, and I get it. Okay, yeah. We appreciate the over analysts on that, but we all know now that Todd Golden is close to Bruce. But that does count in knowing how each other works. And again, a not healthy Broome does, I think, cost you a few points, like Hugh said. Tony said, I think Golden is just getting started down in Gainesville. The Oliver Rue kid, almost 8 feet tall, said is about to be a nightmare in a couple of years for any team. Todd Golden is a good coach. I mean, we already played him in an SEC championship game in the tournament last year. We see what he's doing this year. Had to deal with some off-the-floor controversy with some stuff. I guess that got solved or eliminated or whatever. So he moves on now, and he is building a tremendous program. Question for you guys. Ed said, how much do y'all believe that the AU fan base bitching about the way he plays affected CBM? He was not aggressive at all. Better let him play his game or more L's coming. Your thoughts on that?
I don't think Chad Baker-Mazara pays attention to what anybody says. If that was the case, he would have just stopped playing after the NCAA tournament last year, because you can't get more than what Auburn fans complain. I mean, like what happened against Yale, and he's played that way the whole season. I don't think that impacted him at all. Sometimes you're not going to be engaged, and I didn't think he was really engaged on Saturday. But he also had a 4-point play to start the game. He looked pretty engaged from the get-go, and then Florida kind of took him out of the game a little bit. Again, that length, size impacts you, and I thought it impacted the entire Auburn team on Saturday.
Faith, Auburn heads up to Nashville. You and I and Lyndon have been talking about this. She's got to use reverse. She can't be pulling for Vanderbilt now. She's got to put her orange and blue back on. But they are 12-1 in that building. Vanderbilt is hey, look, they've kind of risen from the ashes of the SEC, and they're extremely good. And a lot of teams in this league on any given night when you go in their building are going to be tough to beat. But this is a good Vanderbilt team. They've been in several games on the road. This is not a great place to go after a loss. Auburn's got to file this one away, and they got to get ready to play in already an odd gym anyway. That place is just weird, and it always is. And I guess they play to that. That's kind of an advantage for Vanderbilt. But what are you expecting from Auburn, Faith? I'm expecting a refocused team going on the road.
Yeah, definitely a focused and engaged team that looks interested in trying to win a basketball game. That place is a hard place to play. We've talked about it. I feel like that's all we've said. And it can't be overlooked because we play at Alabama on Saturday. They're a good team who, like you said, have gone 12-1 at home. So, hopefully it's going to be another game where we come out looking hot and we're able to kind of look at where we went wrong and why our shots, we just got outscored. So we just got fully beat. That's what we're going to have to do against Vanderbilt and, play good defense like we have been all year. So
you got to rely on that defense, Jason. Defense travels. We'll talk more about Vanderbilt tomorrow, obviously, in the preview. I think what everybody is concerned about, and I don't know why you're really concerned about it because it's just a poll, and I'll be honest with y'all, I'll start. I kind of hope we're not number one. We deserve to be number one. I think you look at Duke losing, Alabama hung on the road against Arkansas, but if we're looking, you don't re-rank based on one game. We saw Houston lose and move up a spot last week. So the reason being is because one game shouldn't drop you 3 or 4 spots based on, it's not football. There's a lot of games to play. Now, will Auburn get bumped down? Probably so, just based on what we've seen in the past and kind of the popularity. Will they hop Alabama all the way to number one? I don't know, but just kind of your thoughts on that. Will Auburn stay number one? They by far have the most quad one wins and the best resume to this point, but will they stay number one?
Yeah, I don't really care. Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's a talking point, but this is the one sport where it has no impact at all. It's metrics. It has an impact in football because you still have humans kind of going. In this one, it's more, they do more metrics and do those things, and a long way to go.
Right.
I honestly, I don't really care. They got the number one, fine.
Well, they've been number one for 4 weeks in a row.
And here's the thing: you lost the game. If somebody else moves up to number one, it's the way, it's human. It's human nature. It happens in football. And here's the thing, and we've heard this said before. And I grew up Auburn. I covered Auburn 25 years. I've heard people for my entire lifetime almost talk about 1983 when Auburn was number 3 and 1 and 2 lost in the bowl game, and Auburn did not move up. Well, it was 1 week. It was 1 game.
Right.
And people complain. Same situation. So if Alabama's number 1,
hey, and that was a lot bigger situation in football. That was a lot bigger. Just situation. A midweek game in basketball. So
yeah, and so that's it. So like it's a 1 game scenario, but 1 game scenarios sometimes matter. If they move up, fine. If Auburn stays 1, fine. It's still going to be a really big game on Saturday.
Everyone's going to complain whether we move up or we move down, whatever, or stay the same and whatever. But I do think it relieves, that pressure valve that we were talking about, Brett. And, you don't have nearly as much of the target of let's go beat that number 1 team. We just beat the number 1 team at home. I mean, if we're going to Alabama and they're going to be number 1.
Hey, we both have a game in between now and Saturday too.
Yeah, so. That too. I mean, I don't think it makes any difference if we stay number 1 or not either.
Yeah, no, to me, Tuesday's a much more important game in my opinion than Saturday is, because Saturday's that's a toss-up basketball game. You need to win right now. If you're Auburn, you've done all these things. You need to win the games you're supposed to win. And then you go, hey, if you split Alabama and you win the games you're supposed to win from here on out, you will have done what you needed to do to be a number 1 seed. And ultimately, that's the goal that you're shooting for, is to be a number 1 seed. You'd love to be the overall number 1 seed, but you still, even if you split Alabama, you win the games you're supposed to win. Right now for Auburn, that probably means the rest of them. You do that, you're going to be the overall number 1 seed.
No doubt, it all takes care of itself in the long run.
Yep.
Here's what, and we'll end on this. And by the way, Jason, to back up your point, Auburn's, on the matchup predictor on ESPN, it's an 82.9% chance to win. That's how much they think Auburn. And of course, when you look at the teams, that's how much better our roster is than Vanderbilt. But again, the equalizer's going on the road.
Yeah, this is a completely different game. So Saturday was a really difficult matchup. This one's more about where you're playing, because Vandy's not very big. They only have 1 guy over 6'8".
Right.
This is the type of game that Janai Broom dominates. This is when you look up and I can see 26 and 16 Tuesday night, because this one is more about being on the road, but this is a very veteran basketball team. And the benches should not have as much of an impact on this team as they do some other teams that have gone up there in the past. Yeah,
and Faith, we talked about how a few weeks ago Vanderbilt lists their entire roster as guards. Lyndon talked about that. And, again, they are a small team. So we should see some of that advantage inside. Again, Dillon, maybe not the best game against Florida, but could see him turn it around and get refocused. Like I said, get refocused, get grounded again. Who cares about a ranking? And then get ready for this last run here in the SEC. And I'll say one more thing. I'd rather go ahead and figure it out now and get some things worked out than to do what we've done the last several years and go out in the first or second round of the tournament. Because we've look, I know that we kind of got caught up in some stuff at the end of last year. We won the SEC tournament, and then we kind of all got – and I think the coaches and players got kind of – and they admitted it, Jason, caught up in where they got sent for the first round. Instead of saying, okay, we're a 4 seed or whatever, and we should have been higher or we should have gotten a better draw, we kind of let that consume us. And I remember Coach Pearl saying, we don't need to let that happen again. We kind of just got to go play. Wherever we get seeded, we got to go play. But the best way to get a better seed is to do better here and to figure out your problems now. And so I think, again, if you want to hit a little bit of a wall, we saw Iowa State hit a wall last week. They've come back now. Doesn't mean they quit. They forgot how to play basketball. I mean, they're a good basketball team. I still think that will go down as being one of our best wins all year on our record when the dust settles. So you're going to go through the ebbs and flows. Alabama's already, lost, a couple of games this year. They lost one at home to Ole Miss that everybody's going, good Lord, how did that happen? Because when you don't play at your highest level, anybody in this league's capable of beating, including South Carolina, who's sitting down there, at the bottom of the league. If you don't play your best basketball, I mean, look at us in Florida and some of the teams that barely escaped Columbia. I mean, but at the end of the day, when you look at their record, you go, they're terrible. But they can beat you when you don't play your best game. All right, Jason, before we let you go, any updates on football and anything that's going on? I know we're getting ready to get into spring. I know the Senior Bowl was last week, and just kind of the thoughts on the player-only workouts and things. I've been hearing some stuff about, Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight, and, had a chance to talk to Malcolm Simmons and DeMarcus Riddick and several of those guys Saturday at the Benjamin Russell basketball game that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But just kind of any updates from you on football?
Yeah, just heard that hey, they're 3 times a week doing these voluntary player-led practices already. And those are things in the past that really didn't happen until after the spring. That's normally stuff that happens in the summer, and it's already started. I think that's a great sign. And so you look at it just, obviously quarterbacks are important when you start talking about those, but this is now a team that has some older guys. And Malcolm Simmons, DeMarcus Riddick, Cam Coleman, all those guys have played a lot of football, but you think about offensive line. Now you got a bunch of older guys, and you think about, some of these other spots. You got a Brandon Frazier at tight end that's an older guy, but you pair those with some young, energetic guys and say, look, this is how you win. This is what's important. And I think, even a guy like Jackson Arnold, only a couple of years he's played, but you see it and you know how important it is. And so I think just the voluntary things that have really started much quicker for this team, I think are pretty important to, you don't see it. But those are background things that happen that lead to I think positive changes.
Hearing some real positive things about how fast Eric Singleton really is.
Yeah.
And what a speedster he's going to bring. I don't know how this wide receiver lineup is going to look. I mean, Perry was with Malcolm and DeMarcus the other night, and just a lot of talent. When you start going down through there and you forget about some guys, you go, good Lord, we still got him. And we got that guy. And, I know that we're only going to be able to put so many on the field. And, we're going to probably try to do some different things because of the talent we have. But, man, I heard this analysis, and I'd like to hear what you thought, Jason, before you get off. Auburn's quarterback, and you want him to make plays, but you just want to be able to distribute the ball to your playmakers, kind of like a point guard maybe in basketball. The point guard doesn't have to do all the scoring. Sometimes they do. But if you got really good players around you, you just got to make sure you're getting them the ball where they can make the plays for it.
Yeah, and I always go back to Mac Jones. Mac Jones, just average quarterback. The guy had like 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions as a senior at Alabama because he had a bunch of really good players around him.
Right.
That's what – I mean, look, Tua, all those guys, I mean, they all got to the NFL because of the guys around them. I'm not saying they're not talented, but were those guys, in my opinion, Heisman Trophy candidate guys? No, not physically they weren't. Had a bunch of good guys around them. It's what Hugh Freeze and his staff have chosen to do. They said, look, we can do this 2 ways. You can either go to the portal and try to build it and make a run, and have a bunch of transfer guys, or you can build it through the high school ranks, build a really quality roster, and piece some other pieces with it out of the portal to get there. Ohio State just won a national championship doing that. Do I think
Will Howard's not some unbelievable quarterback?
I mean, he's a good quarterback, but that guy's not he's not a first-round NFL draft pick.
Right.
You look at it and, hey, the wide receiver group, those were homegrown guys, including a really talented freshman. You had a couple of transfer pieces that one at running back, the other running back, homegrown. Most of those offensive linemen, homegrown. Defensive linemen, homegrown. And you add pieces in, but it's the entirety of the roster. That's what they've tried to do. And to me, this is the first time you start to go, feel like you can match up. Now, the ultimate to me is going to be the defensive line. I think Auburn recruited really good. How many of those guys are ready to take on the SEC will ultimately determine, on the defensive side of the ball. But I think they got guys that can do it.
Jason, always great to have you. Thank you for being with us on Mondays now. Share with everybody how they can get your content and where they can catch up with you guys daily.
Yep. Check us out, auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network. We got our YouTube channel as well that has a ton of stuff on it, so you can come find us there. But yeah, big week. Softball had a good start to the Malvo era. Baseball starts this weekend. Obviously, basketball going on. We got tons of recruiting coverage. Myself and Christian Clemente were at the Under Armour camp yesterday, so a lot of things coming out of that as well. So there's plenty to read. So come check us out.
Jason, real quick before we let you go, I know I keep saying that. I'm just going to keep bringing you in like a rope. I'm just going to keep dragging you back in. Softball did get started. I know Faith and I are going to talk about that too. But just your thoughts. The Malvo era is underway.
Yeah, I think you see right now the difference offensively. It's pretty much the same lineup as you had last year. I went and did it, and I think it was even before yesterday's game, or maybe it was after the game. But just somebody like Nelia Peralta.
Right.
She had 2 home runs last year and had, I think, 30 hits. She has 3 home runs and 10 hits in 5 games.
In one weekend.
They've got 11 home runs. They hit 35 as a team last year. You're not going to do that every weekend, and it's going to be
but that's very impressive.
It shows you that there's been some growth offensively for this team. Do they have enough pitching to get through this league? That's going to be a huge question mark, and that's the toughest thing to kind of figure out. But I think you can see, hey, there's already been some steps taken just in one off season heading into this year.
And next week, Jason, when you come on, we'll talk about the opening weekend of baseball. Auburn opens up with Holy Cross at home, so we'll talk more about that then. But Jason, always a lot of fun. We'll talk to you on Friday as well.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, thanks, brother.
Jason,
appreciate
thank you.
All right, moving right along, Faith, and again, a ton to talk about here. And I know it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but it is the talk of the day. And in the world of media, that's what we do and fans do. And they're going to be looking to see when the rankings come out today, if Auburn stays number 1. And look, I've seen it multiple ways. I've seen a lot of, and I think Auburn fans kind of feel like we're always waiting to get screwed, I guess, kind of feel. And I hate to say it that way, but you kind of just like, all right, we're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. I'm seeing a lot of national pundits give Auburn the benefit of the doubt and say, look, they failed a good Florida team at home. They by far and away have a resume that's better than everybody when it comes to quad 1 wins. The number 2 team in the country loses. I don't see enough gap or enough, even though the loss was at home, to drop them out of number 1. I'm going to say it again. I hope we do drop, and I'm not saying it because I don't want to be number 1. I just think this team, they've shown that they're the best in the country. They've done it for 4 weeks. If Alabama wants the crown, heavy is the crown, right? And so they've been thinking the whole time they were going to have the number 1 team coming in to Coleman Coliseum. And again, when you're number 2 or 3, even though it's at home, really the pressure is always going to be on the top dog. Well, if you reverse the roles, maybe it does take a little bit of that. Oh, well, if now we're supposed to be the team that wins. It's a reverse psychology thing, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, I just think it takes a big weight off your shoulders. Like, so many people want to, and we say this every single day, it feels like, but so many people want to go in and beat the number 1 team. Like, that's just
right.
It's the sport. It's competitive. And especially, I'm sure Florida, after they lost at home, they wanted to come in and go and beat the number 1 team after, Tennessee went and they were at home, weren't they?
Which one? Which game? You talking about Florida? Oh yeah, Florida blew Tennessee's doors off at home.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they were, they split. They both won at home. So
yeah. Okay. Well, I reversed that. But yes, they wanted to go on the road after losing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And go in and beat that number 1 team.
You're exactly right.
And
they had a hard – I mean, look, people need to realize that Florida's had a tough stretch. You got to go on the road to Tennessee, then you got to come to Auburn.
Yeah.
Crap, who's drawing that card? Who wants that schedule? And credit them for splitting those games. I mean, they didn't play good on the road at Tennessee, but they rebounded and came to Auburn and played out of their mind. So
that to me just shows like a vengeance and they want to get taken seriously after that, because I mean, when they were at Rocky Top and that was a awful game for them. What else is a clap back to everybody saying we are better than that than going and beating the number 1 team?
But and Tennessee had a little added motivation in that game because they did get beat so badly and get knocked out of number 1. That's when they got knocked out of number 1's, when they got beat so badly at Florida. So there was a little bit extra. I mean, again, kind of attribute to the way Florida played against us. They came in and said, "Look, we're not coming in there. We're not going to lose. I don't care if it's Neville. I don't give a rip for playing on Mars. We're coming in there and we're going to play our best game, and you better play your best game. If not, we're going to beat you." And that's what I think we've kind of hit from a body language thing. And I sent you something last night. I texted you, and this has been brought up by several other people. From a body language standpoint, maybe we just need to get a little bit more. We needed something to have, I guess, to put a chip back on our shoulder a little bit.
Right.
Again, I say this, and it's a cliche statement, but heavy's the crown. I think it's weighed us down a little bit. I think we've proven, you're number 1 for 4 weeks, and just that's all anybody constantly talks about. It becomes a distraction at some point. Now, I said it yesterday to several people. They came up to me and asked me my thoughts. I said, again, I'll keep using that term that we're using, pressure valve release. Just go play basketball now. You've proved you've been number 1 for 4 weeks this year. You're still probably the best team in the country, but let's not talk about all that crap anymore. Let's go build now toward March, and let's make sure that we're playing our best basketball when tournament time comes around, because we haven't the last couple of years. When March rolls around, we've kind of hit a wall, and it hasn't been the best performance by us.
And Florida's got to go to Mississippi State, and we've seen how
not an easy place to play.
Yeah, their home court advantage is.
Ask Tennessee how it worked out for them over there. It didn't work out very good.
Right. So that'll also be, an interesting game to watch. That's on at 6 at the same time our game is on. So that's
we're gonna be flipping back and forth, around, updating
multi-view.
Our text thread going like we always have. All right. I want to go and talk about some of our partners here. We got so carried away and got so much great information. As always, Sensor Green, our partner here for air that's cool and clean, call on Sensor Green. They're the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama, also proud supporters of Auburn Athletics. You see their logo on the post-game banner in the press conference room. So make sure you call on Sensor Green. Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm that concentrates and specializes in educational projects, new schools, renovations. They have a ton going on right now. And if you're a school system or you're affiliated with a school project and you need some help or you want somebody to lead you through that project, Scout Program Management, located in Birmingham, Alabama, is the place to go. Bunkers, you and I just hung out at Bunkers this past week. Man, it's great. The food is great. Your menu selections were awesome. Faith, you didn't go wrong on any of those. The steak sliders. No, steak sliders were outstanding. The pizza was great. Your buffalo chicken dip was outstanding. So go to Bunkers on West Glen in Auburn. Great place to go hang out, play golf inside, all types of different games. What a cool bar they have. Just an awesome place to go. And then Sure Shot Outdoors here in the Lake Martin area, and that's the wrong graphic for Sure Shot. Let me pull that up real quick. Sure Shot Outdoors, firearms, apparel, hunting. They sell and trade new and used firearms. They've got everything that you're looking for when it comes to outdoors. So make sure you go check out Sure Shot Outdoors. You can call them. There's the number 256-329-0080. Whether you're looking for a shotgun, rifle, or a handgun, or the camo that you need, go call on Sure Shot. Come and see them in Alexander City right there on Highway 280. And we'll get to some more before we get off. Faith, again, moving forward, got Vanderbilt. Then you got, obviously, after tomorrow, we're going to be talking heavily about what the matchup is going to look like with Auburn and Alabama. And again, will Auburn be number one? Or will Alabama be number one? We'll know here in a few hours. And then we'll be able to say whether Auburn snapped that little, hopefully that's not a losing streak. We want to go ahead and end this at 1, get a win at Vanderbilt, and then have a little, okay, the pros and cons of a quick turnaround. Okay, quick turnaround, you got to play Tuesday, but you get an extra day on the back end to get ready for Alabama. So that's a positive. So we can look at the negatives, but we can look at the positives. And if Auburn can get through this game tomorrow night on the road at Nashville, they get home having a little bit of extra time to get ready for Alabama, which is going to be, I mean, I'm telling you, man, it's going to be an epic matchup. It doesn't matter what the rankings are. These two teams may be the best two teams in the country when the dust settles. And I'm including Duke. We haven't even talked about Duke yet and how great that was that they got beat too. And again, it's basketball. I don't think anybody saw Duke losing maybe even another game this year in conference play, but hey, Clemson was able to outgrid them and get it done. And but again, this game coming up Saturday will be the first of 2. The last regular season game of the season will be at Auburn on March the 8th against the same Alabama team. So they'll get first dibs at home, and then we'll get our shot back at home. But love to win both of them if you could.
Yeah, if you could. I mean, I'd rather win the one in March, the very last the last one of the regular season.
Of course.
But yeah, Brett, I think we have to eat our words real quick about the Super Bowl.
I don't eat my words real well, Faith. But yeah, you and I were wrong. I had 23-20, and you had what 23-21 because you tried to prices. You tried to prices right me and get a point right there.
Yep.
Well, guess what? I will say that you and I were really close for Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored 22 points. We were all around it. I mean, you can't get more around it than 23-21 or 20-21. But now we didn't anticipate the Eagles doing what they did.
No, that was insane. And I think everybody too, what I've just been reading and stuff about and when I say reading, I mean like Twitter and Instagram, because those are just some of the most unfiltered, entertaining kind of things to read about this. But everybody's saying that the ref narrative, that they love Patrick Mahomes and everything like that, definitely was
everything that built up all year that went right for Kansas City went wrong in this one game.
But I will tell you what I did say was that Vegas is going to win, and Vegas did win, because if everybody went and put their money on the Chiefs,
yep,
where does that money go? Vegas.
To build more.
Vegas always has to win.
To build more high rises.
But I will give myself kudos, and the Gatorade color was yellow.
I had orange. I missed it. I had orange. You had yellow. You nailed it. The only thing is you didn't go put any money on it.
Why would I do that? Because I'm just going to lose it.
Well, you didn't. You would have won it.
Think about it. If I would have done 23-21.
No, I'm saying you should have bet on the Gatorade color.
I know I should have. I also don't know how to bet, so I guess I could figure it out. But
all you get is bragging rights.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to win any money or anything.
Hey, I had some people talking to me about Saquon Barkley scoring one touchdown in the game would have gotten them, a nice little side bet. But who wouldn't have thought that Saquon Barkley doesn't score a touchdown in this game. And the Chiefs sold out. But I will say this, the first dadgum drive, that offensive pass interference, I said, here we go. Now, I know that he put his hands when you go back and look at it now, but Tom Brady, everybody thought that was a terrible call. And we were like, uh-oh, already out of the gate, not going to be able to make any plays. It's the fix is in for Kansas City, but it was completely opposite of that. It was a dominated performance by, yes, Jeff, Oklahoma's former quarterback, Jalen Hurts. I know the Alabama fans won't like that very much, but but again, the Eagles proved they were a better team, and they had a better roster, top to bottom, and it proved in the Super Bowl.
On my fake betting card, I would have said Saquon would have had the first touchdown of the game because it was his birthday, first Super Bowl.
Right.
So glad I didn't do that because I would have lost a lot of money, I think.
Well, guess what? Here's the thing. That's kind of why they call it. How about Cooper DeJean's birthday? DeJean,
Yeah.
DeJean. I've heard it.
DeJean,
yeah,
DeJean.
I think it's DeJean. But
good for him.
What a birthday that is.
He's younger. It wasn't his birthday.
Yeah, it was. It was his birthday yesterday too.
Oh,
his and Saquon's
oh my gosh,
birthday.
it was February 9th. I literally was. Oh my gosh, I don't know why.
You didn't see him eating the cake after the game?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I when I was saying it to my parents because I was like, that kid looks so young or whatever.
He was a rookie.
I'm older than him, and not by very much, but it made me feel so old.
But he scores a touchdown on a pick against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl on your birthday.
That was insane.
It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, February 9th, 2023. That's actually, he's a little child. That's insane. Against Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Oldhead. No, I'm just kidding,
right.
but
Well,
seriously.
I'm going to tell you this. It shows you, and I said this last night to a bunch of my buddies, it just goes ahead and cements what Tom Brady did that I think will not be ever touched. He went to 10 Super Bowls and won 7. Now, I know Patrick Mahomes has got he's still got a lot of years ahead of him. The guy's young. I think I think they've let a few of them get away because they've had a crappy offensive line. I think they've had some opportunities to win a couple more, but you don't know how many more of these chances you're gonna get. Dan Marino probably thought, man, this is pretty easy. When he gets to the league, he goes right to the Super Bowl. He never went back. So in the moment, I think you heard Patrick Mahomes last night say, I think losing these are way worse than how good you feel when you win one. Even though they'd won 2 in a row and we're going for 3, because you don't know if you're going to get back there. That's kind of why when we went to the national championship game in 2010, Faith, it'd been since 1957 since Auburn won a national title in football. And we were there, and I'm like, crap. You just want to win so badly in the moment because you don't know if you're going back. And Auburn went back a few years after that and played in another one. And you hope that it becomes a regular deal, but you got to think about how much has to go right, how many things has to, the ball has to bounce in your direction. Plays in certain games have to go your way to work out just to get to that point again. So it does suck when you get there and you get all the way almost to the finish line and you don't win it. Doesn't matter if you won 2 in a row.
Yeah, it's still hard to defend your holding the Super Bowl for the last 2 years and going back for that three-peat. That is, I'm not comparing it to being the number 1 team in basketball, but it's hard to defend and it puts a lot of pressure on everybody, just like it does, I feel like, with us in basketball being number 1 ranked.
Right. But John said 1 game, I wouldn't sweat it. If you're AE fans, take it in, let it be the fire that burns even stronger the rest of the year. And that's coming from our resident Bammer here in John. He does give a little shout out to his Bama players and Eagles. They did have a lot. They had a lot of players, a lot of former coaches, a lot of everything in the game. Tony said, did the horse in the Budweiser commercial have more rushing yards? Like that, again, no running attack. Pretty much a one-dimensional team, and Philadelphia's defensive line just pinned their ears back, and they brought the house, and they just whipped Kansas City up front, and that was the difference in the game. I mean, you saw
Philadelphia's offensive line was
Jalen
Hurts looked so tiny next to all of them. My mom was laughing. She was like, "He looks so little." And I was like, those boys are
massive,
huge. Those men.
Both sides of the line, defensive and offensive. That's why they're so good and they played so well. So, all right. As we get off, Faith, we got a really busy day. I do want to welcome in a new partner of ours, Oliver Ross. If you're looking for catering, you're looking for again top of the line catering service. I want to read off who Oliver Ross is. It's not a person. It's a business. The name of the business is Oliver Ross, and they're basically licensed. They bring bartenders on site. They're licensed and insured. Some events. They work all types of Auburn University events. They've worked sorority and fraternity parties. They've worked weddings, Buckmasters, big, huge corporate events. They've worked events as small as 50 up to 3,000. So if you're looking for bar service and catering service, they were established back in 2018, and they've done an outstanding job. Call on Oliver Ross. Look them up. Go to their website. Google them, Oliver Ross, right here in the Lake Martin and Auburn area. If you're looking for bar service that's licensed and insured, call on Oliver Ross, and they'll get it taken care of for you. And trust me, I can attest. I've been to several functions where they have handled that for everybody, Faith, and they do a tremendous job with what they do. So glad to have Oliver Ross on as part of what we're doing. And again, thanks to Sense Green and Scout and Sure Shot and everybody involved with our podcast as we continue to grow. As you can see below my name, subscribe to our YouTube channel down there. We would really appreciate that. Continue to grow our channel. Again, want to thank Jason Caldwell for partnering with us now and being on with us on Mondays. Again, as you saw a lot of people comment, Jason's the best in the business. He's covered Auburn for 25 years. He does a tremendous job. The information you get is going to be accurate and precise. And he's not going to throw a bunch of junk out there. And I'll say this, not to start a brawl with any other channel and all, because I don't really watch the other channels, but I hear from people all the time that, oh, I heard this and I heard that. The stuff that we get, the information that we pass along, Faith, is usually coming from the horse's mouth. And we won't always divulge where our information comes from, but we're not going to throw out there a bunch of false stuff just to get a bunch of likes and clicks and all that. So when you come here, we're gonna provide you what we know, and we're gonna throw it out there. And then also, of course, we're gonna give you what we think about the situation. You may agree or disagree, whatever. That's obviously your right to do that. But again, I had a chance to spend some time with Malcolm and DeMarcus and several guys that came to the Benjamin Russell basketball game, and it's not like it's top secret information, but they're going to tell you what's really going on. A lot of times people say, well, I heard this, Joe said that Mark said, that Steven said, that Chris said that he saw this going on at practice. You're not going to hear that on here. We're not going to throw that out there. So we're going to throw you accurate information from real reliable sources. And again, that's what we want to do. We want to provide you the best and most comprehensive stuff about Auburn athletics as we possibly can. We didn't even get a chance to talk about softball. We'll talk more about that. Great start for them. We'll have baseball starting this weekend. We'll continue to update everybody on the football thing, because I did talk to, again, just a kind of a little tidbit, talk to Malcolm and those guys. And we're going to have Malcolm on, by the way, as well. He's going to start coming on with us here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. So we're looking forward to having Malcolm on. If I can wrangle him in, that guy's everywhere. He is like the Energizer Bunny, everybody. I've known Malcolm a long time from here in Alexander City. And, when you see all that energy on the field, that's how he is in real life. I'm like, do you ever get tired? Do you ever get tired? And he doesn't. So we'll have him on, so he'll give some insight too on some things, what he can say, but just a lot of positivity about, the players, Faith, getting together and taking ownership and wanting to do extra and wanting to get better with what they're doing. And it's going to be good. I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of these guys have grown up quickly. A lot of these freshmen had a lot of them. That's a positive. I'll say this, Faith. It's a negative a lot of times when you have to play a boatload of freshmen, but the positive is they get a lot of experience early, so they become veterans a lot quicker.
Absolutely. And it's just great to watch them grow up and turn into great young men and that, can just perform better and better each year. And you get to watch them hopefully stay and perform better.
Hey, I've got to throw another compliment towards you. And I didn't even tell you this weekend. I didn't even text you. I forgot to text you, but I had several people this weekend tell me that your hat game was super strong, that you need to wear a hat more often.
Thank you.
They thought your hat was on point.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
I had multiple people say that to me, Faith. That was like,
I still have the little the tag from it from it being actually one of the vintage ones from 1984.
There you go. Strong hat game.
Thank you. Thanks.
So
guys.
You got multiple compliments on that. So
thanks.
All right, guys. Again, it's been a great time here. It's Monday. Look, man, we'll blink. It'll be Friday, but tomorrow Auburn and Vanderbilt. Faith and I will be back. Randy will be with us tomorrow to preview the Auburn Vanderbilt game and a lot of other things going on. Of course, we always appreciate your comments. Thanks to all our partners. We can't do this show without you and your support, and we always appreciate the kind words. So make sure you go out there, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Spread the word for us. Help us spread the good word, and we're going to continue to bring on some great guests here on the program to give you a little bit more insight beyond what Faith and I are able to bring you. So and enhance what we do here on the Auburn Blitz podcast as my dog barks us out, Faith. So
Copper said, all right, it's 9:01. You're
9:01. I'm late, so we're going to get out. All right, everybody have a great Monday, everybody. War Eagle.
War Eagle.